For developers wanting to experiment with Sitecore, Launch Sitecore web application is a great springboard for a development project. However, Launch Sitecore doesn't come with any visitor traffic. So I created a JMeter script here that can actually help us populate and simulate visitor activity. If we go to our existing installation, you'll notice that there's no interactions, nor are there any user profiles to speak of. So first thing we want to do, we want to come over here in our JMeter script, specify our target server, and I'm going to start this script running so that way while I talk it can start generating traffic in the background. The source of our data is from multiple locations. For example, for the user contacts, we have them generated from random user or in order to obtain their photos and the fictitious name. That's only a small set. To get a larger set, I also went into Faces in the Wild, grabbed existing public images. Now there's no gender association, just the image, the individual's name, and the file that's there. Then I used the genderizer in order to identify the gender based on the name. For example, Peter Jennings would be most likely a male name, and that's how I was able to identify the gender for this. We approximately have about 6,000 different users, and I'll show you how this script is going to actually utilize that. So there's a data folder available for the script, and as I go down you'll notice that there's different IP addresses, DNSs. Keywords are for when users are searching an internet to find your site, so the keywords is going to have the referring keyword is going to be in the query string. The Sitecore campaign tracking ID, and for that we would actually utilize the tracking campaign IDs that are already within Launch Sitecore, and you can configure your own in order to further customize the reporting and the campaigns that we want to see it in there. So here's some examples, and if I open up over here, we'll notice, scroll down, there's a campaign ID, and that will match the campaign ID that we have in sample data file. So you'll notice that it is the same ID from there. Okay, so if you go down the list there, that's the campaign ID. Cookie Manager just makes sure that the sessions are persisted for that visitor going throughout. Now each user that visits the web page, we want them to spend X number of seconds on each page. So we have a random variable generator to keep track of how long each user is going to be on each page. Going down, we also have a loop controller here. The loop controller is actually specified because the contacts are associated with each individual's photo and their names. We don't want to rerun the same script for a user that we've already imported in our previous run. So that's where the loop controller comes in. We have an if controller here, skip the top records. So if the count is greater than 0, it's going to include all of them. So if you run 100 users, we can actually rerun it to skip the top 100 users for a new data insert. We have the phone numbers that are being added, incremented in every 2. An office number isn't going to be even, and the mobile number is going to end with the odd digit. Street numbers just generated. Number of interactions. As users browse the internet at your website, they are going to drop off and then come back at a later time. So number of interactions, it determines how many times the user is going to start a new session on the website. And along with that, we want to know how far back do they go back. The same user is going to come back, let's say, every 5 days. Now this could have been made random variable, it's easy enough to change, but I just kept it as a discrete value just to make it a little easier to identify users' historic activity. There's a sequence of variables that we are dealing with, and that's where some little bit of customization came about. For example, the same individual using their name, we want to be able to generate the same birth date. And we're using first name, middle, and last name as a hash code to build a birth date. Same with their middle name, phone number, and as well as their first visit date. As users come to a website, typically there's only a handful of web pages as an entry point, and in Launch Sitecore, that's exactly what we have. We have a random controller which is responsible for selecting randomly one of these pages that it's going to go to. We have a landing page query string, and what we're doing is adding the Sitecore campaign ID, which is obtained from the data file that was specified earlier in the data folder. So that's going to actually pick up randomly, and if the random number is greater than 0.20, which is going to give us at least 80% of users getting a campaign ID associated with their request. This is simply setting the header for the subsequent request. The referring site is another value that is coming in for the landing pages, and as well as the keywords the user used to find the website, for example from the Google. The search is another element. This gets the search from the Launch Sitecore field, and so that way we can actually search for an element within Sitecore and simulate user actually doing the search, and that's what that's going to do. Get the field name, so at the later moment we're going to be doing a post for that search element. Well, then the user starts browsing the site. We have different elements. For example, on the about Launch Sitecore, we have different elements that we want them to do. Getting started, optimize the experience. Now, should they see every one of these elements as they click through? In this case, we said only if our random variable generator is greater than 0.70. So they're not going to see every one of these pages because we want to have a little bit of variance in the request. Again, in the random order and in a ad hoc manner with the randomization. They jump back to home page, and as they go, the script goes out. It repeats the same process with different requests, different locations, with different probabilities. As this continues out, one of the last things on the page that we are going to do, we are going to actually call update contact. Update contact is part of our script that we've made available, and that is contact update. Oops, wrong page. Sitecore 8 contact update ASPX, and the script essentially is doing a form request submit to this one page, and the developer can come in and put ad hoc values here to continue populating it. As it finishes, abandons the page to flushes the data into XDB. So if we go back to our script now and experience analytics, we should see some user generated activity. So we can simply click around and look over different elements. For example, as far as locations, different cities, the users that are coming for us at this point. If we keep going down, perhaps under acquisition, different user behaviors, what they have, we can go back over to campaigns, perhaps what campaigns the users got generated here. We go back to experience profile. Now we can actually also get some other information with them, such as an image, the activities for that users, campaigns that were triggered, channels that they came through, any goals that were associated, and any social network if there was a value associated with that. So this is the traffic generator, and um, I hope you guys like it.